Good day, my name is Alexander, and I represent the company Teplitca. Today, I'd like to talk about how to choose the right type of greenhouse. First, I'll discuss the different types of greenhouses available, and then I'll explain the specifics of each type, that is, which greenhouse is best for what. Let's start by familiarizing ourselves with the various types and options of greenhouses. One of the most common and frequently encountered options, especially for dachas, is the arched greenhouse. Simply bending a pipe or profile through a pipe bender results in an arched structure. This is the first advantage, and the second is that the arched shape allows for the use of the least amount of covering material. Most greenhouses used at dachas, that is, small amateur dachas, are made in an arched configuration. If an arched greenhouse is made with the correct configuration, meaning the height of the greenhouse is greater than its radius, for example, a greenhouse with a height of 2 meters and a width of 3 meters, we get an optimal arch configuration, and snow will slide off it on its own. If we stretch the greenhouse wider while keeping the height the same, we get a kind of flattened sphere, which means that snow will accumulate on it, and in principle, such greenhouses often collapse in winter. What can we say about the advantages of an arched greenhouse? First, its cost is always lower than other types of greenhouses. Second, it can be covered with various materials, such as film or polycarbonate. Third, it provides quite comfortable conditions for growing plants. What are the disadvantages of an arched greenhouse? First of all, only low-growing plants can be planted near the walls on the sides. If we want to plant plants, then we should have tall plants in the center and low-growing plants on the sides. Therefore, it's not possible to use the entire area for growing tall plants in an arched greenhouse. This is one of the disadvantages. Also, for example, it's very difficult to find a glass arched greenhouse. The second type of greenhouse that is very often used is a gable greenhouse. Typically, a gable greenhouse is considered a classic and, in principle, is just as popular as an arched greenhouse on plots and for farm use. Why are such greenhouses popular? Firstly, they can be made from a variety of materials directly on your own dacha or at home using whatever is at hand: boards, reinforcement, metal. Anything you have can be used to form a kind of house and then covered with transparent materials. What are the nuances of construction? If a roof is being made, then the angle of inclination should be less than 21 degrees so that snow will slide off on its own. The ideal angle of inclination for greenhouses is about 30 degrees, then the sun's rays penetrate almost completely through the roof without reflection. This is the optimal angle of attack for the sun, that is, maximum light transmission. This is the first point. Secondly, gable greenhouses have vertical side walls, which allows you to grow a wide variety of plants, including tall ones, throughout the entire area of the greenhouse, which is quite convenient. So, what can we say about gable greenhouses? They are very convenient, firstly. Secondly, they can be made from almost anything that is at hand. Thirdly, the entire area can be used for growing tall plants, meaning we can, for example, make the walls 2 meters high and plant tomatoes and cucumbers throughout the entire area, and everything will be fine. The main disadvantage of gable greenhouses is that their cost is higher than arched ones. They are not always convenient to cover with film because there are sharp corners, but if in principle they are hidden, these greenhouses can also be covered with film quite well. Gable greenhouses can be covered with all materials: glass, film, polycarbonate, agrofiber, that is, anything that can transmit light and retain heat is suitable for covering such greenhouses. One variant of a gable greenhouse is when the upper slopes, for example, the right and left, which are usually the southern and northern ones, have different slopes. Usually, the northern slope is higher, and the southern one is lower, which creates a vertical part between the joints of the slopes where vents are usually installed. This type of greenhouse was first invented by Jacob Mittleider and began to be used for cultivation. What is the advantage of such a greenhouse? How does it differ from a gable one? Due to the fact that there is a vertical part in the upper part, vents are installed there, and by opening the vents, all the hot air that accumulates in the greenhouse rises up. Additional side or end vents create a constant movement of air, which creates very good, ideal climatic conditions in the greenhouse. Even on the hottest summer day, the greenhouses do not overheat, and due to the flow and movement of air in it, it may even feel cooler than outside. Such greenhouses are currently in the first place in terms of popularity in the dacha segment compared to gable greenhouses, due to the fact that the upper ventilation works very well in terms of creating a good climate inside the greenhouse. Mid-lighter greenhouses are usually located so that the side where the upper vents open faces south. That is, so that the northern winds, if they blow, do not enter the greenhouse and the greenhouse does not cool down. Therefore, it is usually located so that the ends face east-west and the vent opens to the south. This arrangement is the most optimal. Next, among the types of greenhouses, there are lean-to greenhouses. Most often, lean-to greenhouses are adjacent to something, such as a fence or a part of a house, making it very convenient to build a lean-to greenhouse. This is the first option. And as a subtype of lean-to greenhouses, there are vegetariums. These are greenhouses with a slope facing south, which allows for maximum light to enter. The northern wall is made solid, that is, it is completely and maximally insulated to reduce heat loss from the northern side. I've talked a lot about such greenhouses in previous videos and showed how we built them and what equipment we installed there, so I won't dwell on it separately. But as a type of greenhouse where the main slope is located to the south, this is also quite an interesting option. If you make sure that your northern side is closed, then in principle, such a greenhouse will retain heat significantly longer. I've talked quite a lot about vegetariums, and if you're interested, there's a fairly detailed video inside about how it's done and what systems are used in a vegetarian greenhouse. In general, a vegetarium is not just a lean-to greenhouse, it's a whole complex of measures that are used to maximize the energy efficiency of the greenhouse, systems for accumulating heat and cold, maximum light transmission, reflectivity of internal walls, as well as heat accumulation, the angle of inclination of the beds, and other various moments that allow the greenhouse to function quite well. So, these are the main types of greenhouses. If we go further and consider combinations, there can be, for example, a hybrid of a mid-lighter and an arched greenhouse, or a lean-to greenhouse made in the form of a half-arch. That is, these are all variations, combinations of different configurations. If you want to grow tall plants, there are two options: either make a tall arched greenhouse, that is, place the arch on legs, and thus get a large space, because these plants love volume and space to grow upwards. Or, ideally for them, gable greenhouses, where there is a vertical part and, accordingly, a roof. If you're growing lettuce and greens, you don't need tall greenhouses, so arched greenhouses are perfect, and they are often even buried. For a wide variety of options, mid-lighter greenhouses are suitable because they allow for optimal ventilation. What is done in mid-lighter greenhouses is often done in farm greenhouses where the top part simply opens. In mid-lighter, this is done much simpler. In terms of functionality, for example, mid-lighter greenhouses are in first place because you can grow everything in them. In terms of use and priority, most large, so-called farm greenhouses are made in an arched shape because the arch is again the cheapest construction if we take greenhouse production, and accordingly, they are covered with film, that is, the optimal covering area. The only thing is that these greenhouses must have good ventilation. Therefore, make your choice of greenhouses. If we take dachas and budget options, then arched greenhouses are suitable if we want a good operational option where it will always be comfortable and it will always be good to grow, then this is a mid-lighter greenhouse. In principle, combinations made from what you have at hand, that is, gable greenhouses, are well suited. If you want to grow tall plants, it must have vertical walls that allow you to increase volume. There are also interesting options when shelves are made, and here again, you need vertical walls to maximize the area that is in the greenhouse. For example, let's take a 4-meter arched greenhouse with a height of 2.5 meters, and we want to install shelves for growing salads and greens. If the height of the shelves is 2 meters, then we will hardly fit 2 shelves here because the arch rounding will not allow us to place them maximally on the sides. But if we take a gable greenhouse with vertical walls of 2 meters, then here we can easily place 3 trays with a height of 2 meters, for example, and a width of 80 cm. I often encountered the situation where people wanted to install shelves for growing, and what kind of greenhouse is best suited, that is, here, in small sizes, a gable greenhouse is definitely suitable for installing shelves. Alexander was with you. I hope I gave you some advice and helped you in some way. If you have any questions, please write in the comments, I will be happy to answer you. Until next time.